The images we just saw are, as we all noticed, ordinary pictures of people at various events and occasions. But for those who paid close attention, there's one common factor, or rather, one common person in all of them. This man, whom some of you may already recognize, stood before SoftBank investors in 2024, the major Japanese investment group specializing in technology, and spoke to them with deep emotion about what had happened to him in the preceding months. He recounted how he stood in his mansion, which he had built over the past years near Japan's capital Tokyo, surrounded by a vast golf course, seething with anger. He kept wondering how he had missed the latest AI revolution. He had spent years preaching about its rise. Speaking to the investors, he said, "I asked myself, since I couldn't do anything, then what? Am I just going to grow old and die like this?" Now, anyone hearing this without knowing who he is might assume he's a failure, or at the very least, an unlucky or struggling investor. So, the question is, who is he? The man I'm telling you about is the Japanese billionaire Masayoshi Son, the world's most famous tech investor, the richest man in the world in the early 2000s, and currently the second richest man in Japan. You might remember him standing beside Donald Trump in mid-December after Trump won the election, pledging to invest $100 billion and create 100,000 jobs. A month later, after the inauguration, he was among the first to be welcomed by Trump at the White House, alongside Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, and Larry Ellison, chairman of Oracle, to announce the Stargate project, a $500 billion investment which we'll talk about shortly. Masayoshi, or as he's commonly called Masa, has recently launched an ambitious campaign to build a competitor to the world's leading GPU design and manufacturing company and the driving force behind today's massive AI market, Nvidia. But why does Masayoshi want to challenge Nvidia? Can he succeed in what seems like an almost impossible mission? Why is ARM his most powerful weapon? And why does the market see the Japanese billionaire as the most dangerous investor in the world? That's part of what we'll be discussing in this video. On February 14th, the Financial Times broke an unexpected and surprising story. ARM, the world's leading chip design company, is planning to launch its own chip. Not only that, but it has already lined up its first group of potential customers, with none other than the American tech giant Meta at the forefront. So why is this news so significant? And why is it surprising? I'll explain in a moment, but first, we need to understand what ARM is and why it matters. ARM architecture is really a type of microchip design that can execute a set of simplified operations with minimal power consumption. To break it down, before the ARM architecture emerged in the early 1980s, there was no such thing as carrying a mobile phone with a processor in your pocket. In fact, there were no pocket-sized mobile phones at all. Phones were bulky, often the size of your hand, or even twice or three times that, and they only started appearing in the early 1970s. At the time, performing complex computing tasks required a computer powered by a processor built on x86 architecture, the same architecture that Intel used to build its processors. Even in the best-case scenario, this meant you needed a desktop computer, which was still too large to be portable. When the ARM architecture was introduced, it revolutionized processor design. Chips based on ARM became a key part of the BBC Micro initiative in the 1980s, a British project aimed at putting a computer in every classroom. Then, in 1990, ARM was officially founded in the UK. But despite these modest beginnings, the company quickly became a crucial and unique player in the global technology ecosystem. In its early days, ARM licensed its chip design to power Apple's Newton digital assistant. Later, its chips made their way into the first generation of mobile phones. But the company's true breakthrough came in 2007 when Steve Jobs turned to ARM to design processors for the first iPhone. That was the golden opportunity Intel missed. Jobs had initially offered them the same deal, but they turned it down. Now, take a guess. How many electronic devices worldwide have been powered by ARM-based chips? Approximately 300 billion. Almost every phone on the planet runs on processors based on ARM's designs. ARM operates by licensing its chip designs to companies that want to manufacture their own processors. It provides the blueprints, and companies then produce the chips. The company got a significant boost in the personal computer market in 2020, when Apple introduced the first Mac powered by its M-series processors, which are based on the same ARM architecture used in iPhones. That marked the moment Apple officially broke away from Intel. Soon after, Microsoft followed suit, integrating ARM-based chips into a new category of personal computers. In short, ARM holds a uniquely powerful position in the world of advanced chips, and understanding all of this is key to grasping Masayoshi Son's ambitions and plans. But first, let's ask, what is his connection to ARM? In 2016, SoftBank Group acquired ARM for $32 billion. Then, in 2023, it listed the company on the Nasdaq Stock Exchange. In less than 2 years, ARM's stock value doubled. At the time of the acquisition, SoftBank was already known for making massive investments, worth tens of billions, in hundreds of tech companies. And in hindsight, one of their smartest moves was fully acquiring ARM. But why? Masayoshi Son is the CEO of SoftBank Group and owns nearly 30% of it, making his net worth around $33 billion. After its acquisition and subsequent public listing, ARM became a golden goose for SoftBank and Masayoshi Son himself. More importantly, it served as his lifeline, rescuing him from the consequences of a series of disastrous decisions over the past 9 years, decisions that could have completely wiped out his fortune and bankrupted him. Son has always been known for his rebellious nature. At the same time, he is one of the most unpredictable businessmen in the world when it comes to his decisions and actions. Over the past 40 years since founding SoftBank, he has transformed it into the world's largest tech investor, relying primarily on his intuition and vision. In this realm, Masayoshi is like any other venture capitalist. He invests in hundreds of companies, knowing he will inevitably lose money on some. However, he believes that a few of these investments will succeed, perhaps even explode in value. He is famous for saying that he invests through SoftBank because he wants his group to survive for at least 300 years. But beyond these ambitious dreams, has his intuition always been right? The truth is, no. The man has a highly volatile track record, with some shining moments of brilliance and others marked by catastrophic misjudgments. If we trace his investment history, we'll find that he amassed a massive fortune by investing in tech companies in the late 1990s, during the dot-com bubble that we all know about. However, when the bubble burst and most internet-based business models collapsed, and he nearly lost his entire wealth. During this crash, he made a peculiar decision to invest in a fledgling e-commerce venture. At the time, he met a young Chinese entrepreneur in his 30s and was captivated by the spark in his eyes and his passion for the project. Believing in the internet's potential as the future, Masayoshi decided to invest through SoftBank, handing the young entrepreneur $20 million. That decision would later become one of the greatest investment moves in history. The startup's founder, Jack Ma, would go on to build a global e-commerce empire, Alibaba. Over the following years, Masayoshi's $20 million investment turned into a market stake worth $170 billion. Later, in 2006, Masayoshi Son acquired Vodafone Japan, rebranding SoftBank as the SoftBank Group and merging it with Vodafone Japan. This too proved to be a highly successful bet, allowing Son to secure a significant foothold in the Japanese telecom market, both at the time and in the years that followed. On the other hand, some of the daring Japanese investors' decisions turned out to be disastrous bets, as I mentioned earlier, and in this category, no example stands out more than WeWork. For those unfamiliar, WeWork was a well-known company managing office spaces in the US. Masayoshi Son was convinced by its business model and poured billions of dollars into it between 2017 and 2021. However, the company ultimately collapsed due to poor management decisions, its inability to generate profits, and its failed IPO. To put things into perspective, WeWork was once valued at $47 billion before its downfall. By 2023, that valuation had plummeted to just $21 million. A few months later, by the end of the year, the company declared bankruptcy. In this single blow, Masayoshi Son and his group lost at least $12 billion. Masayoshi made these investments, both the successful and the disastrous, through an investment fund he established in 2017 called the Vision Fund. This fund included global partners such as Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, the UAE's Mubadala, Apple, Qualcomm, Taiwan's Foxconn, and others. However, the Vision Fund's investment in ARM was vastly different from Masayoshi's usual high-risk bets. ARM was already highly profitable at the time of SoftBank's acquisition, generating over $500 million annually. It also had a solid market reputation and held a dominant 90%+ share in the mobile processor design market. After SoftBank acquired ARM, Masayoshi ordered an increase in hiring, directed the company to aggressively recruit top talent, and funneled resources into research and development. This move led to a decline in short-term profits, but Masayoshi claimed that it would generate significantly greater revenue within 5 to 7 years. Through this acquisition, Son was betting that the global demand for chips would surge dramatically and that ARM would secure a substantial share of this massive growth opportunity. He was primarily focused on the Internet of Things, IoT, and firmly believed that by 2035, the IoT market would be worth $1 trillion annually, with about 1 trillion connected devices of all kinds linked to the Internet. These were the numbers he was truly convinced of. For those unfamiliar, the Internet of Things, IoT, refers to the concept of all devices, regardless of their type, being connected to the Internet, whether through open or closed networks. This connectivity allows them to be controlled remotely and deliver services far beyond their current capabilities. This applies as much to the refrigerators in our homes as it does to advanced smartphones and modern cars. That's why one of the first things ARM did under his direction was invest heavily in building cloud computing-based services and businesses aligned with Son's vision. The goal was to create a platform where companies could store and manage device data within SoftBank's ecosystem. Additionally, ARM invested heavily in developing advanced chips capable of powering a wide range of connected devices. So why is this an important thing? Because Son miscalculated the AI boom, focusing on the wrong direction. He didn't anticipate that the real explosion would come from generative AI and large language models. On one hand, we do now have refrigerators, washing machines, household appliances, and various machines connected to the internet, communicating with each other. But that doesn't mean this sector will reach the scale Son envisioned anytime soon. Even ARM's own estimates suggest that the IoT chip market will be worth $50.5 billion in 2025, with around 49 billion connected devices by 2026. That's roughly 1/20th of the figures Masayoshi expected. As a result, SoftBank, ARM, and Son himself gradually shifted away from the area they were originally betting on. This led to ARM losing more than $275 million in 2021 and 2022 before its stock market debut. More importantly, Son failed to foresee the AI revolution driven by OpenAI and similar companies. This misjudgment pushed SoftBank to try selling ARM in 2020. And here's the surprise. They attempted to sell it to the very giant that Son was planning to compete with in the future, Nvidia. Nvidia was set to acquire ARM for $40 billion, but Silicon Valley's tech giants were alarmed by the move. They fiercely opposed the deal, arguing that it would give Nvidia unrivaled dominance and immense power over the global GPU market. Consequently, the British government blocked the acquisition for national security reasons. The alternative? Taking ARM public, which, as I mentioned earlier, happened in less than 3 years. The failure of that deal, if you ask me, and perhaps even Son himself, turned out to be a stroke of luck. It gave him a major opportunity to avoid a costly mistake, selling the crown jewel of his group. Time would soon prove ARM's true value, and at the same time, it gave him a chance to make up for his delay in jumping into the generative AI investment frenzy. This failure also gave him an opportunity to compensate for SoftBank's premature sale of its stake in Nvidia. Yes, you heard that right. Ironically, SoftBank and Masayoshi Son actually owned a stake in Nvidia, which they acquired in 2017. But in 2019, they sold it, just before Nvidia skyrocketed to become one of the world's 3 most valuable companies. During the same year ARM went public, 2023, the Japanese billionaire, who frequently mentions his heavy use of ChatGPT, developed a close relationship with Sam Altman, OpenAI's co-founder and CEO. Their discussions became more frequent, reaching the point where they were talking almost daily, without a solid business case. But many global players in the tech investment space agree with this observation about Son's approach. That's why Altman and OpenAI presented a golden opportunity for the Japanese billionaire. This was his chance to catch up with the AI revolution, which is still in its early stages and which he firmly believes will shape the future. Or, as he puts it, he wants to dedicate the rest of his life to becoming an architect of humanity's future. In practical terms, this translates to SoftBank investing $43 billion in OpenAI last year, 2024, a move that will value OpenAI at $300 billion, making it the largest startup investment ever. A portion of this investment will go into Project Stargate, which former President Trump announced 2 days after his inauguration. A $100 billion U.S. infrastructure initiative for major tech companies. Over the next 4 years, the project's budget is expected to rise to $500 billion. SoftBank will take financial control of the new company, which will share Stargate's name, while OpenAI will handle operations and Masayoshi Son will be its chairman. The project will be co-funded by MGX, an AI-focused sovereign wealth fund based in Abu Dhabi, and Oracle. Meanwhile, ARM, Microsoft, and Nvidia will be technology partners. But here's where Son's bigger vision kicks in. He wants ARM to be the spearhead of his plan to create a true competitor to Nvidia, a company that will invest in the future of AI hardware. His ambition is to fundamentally transform ARM's business model. Historically, ARM has been a licensing and intellectual property company focused on processor architecture. Now, Son wants it to manufacture its own AI-focused data center chips, essential for training and running AI models. To advance this plan, SoftBank has acquired Graphcore, a British AI chipmaker with expertise in bringing processors to mass production. Additionally, SoftBank is in talks to acquire Ampere Computing, a startup developing cloud computing processors. This acquisition would provide another push towards Son's goal of challenging Nvidia. Of course, Masayoshi Son knows better than anyone how difficult this ambition is. He's not competing against some up-and-coming startup, he's aiming to rival the world's most dominant AI chip company. I won't take up more of your time, but I wanted to give you a glimpse into the world of one of Japan's richest men and most influential investors, and explore the future of ARM through the bold vision he's trying to execute. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and share the video, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and bye.